I gave a speech today at my Toastmasters club, and my evaluator, the person who is assigned to give me feedback, started out by calling me a head cheerleader for criminals. I laughed and wholeheartedly agreed until I realized that that wasn't correct. I am, however, a cheerleader for our returning citizens. I would never cheer for a criminal, for heaven's sakes. In my speech titled Second Chances, I referenced my experience as a participating member of a Toastmaster prison club. I started out by sharing how the COVID pandemic has impacted our incarcerated population, specifically how my prison club hasn't met in 17 months, except for 2 random Zoom meetings. Restrictions put in place because of the pandemic has eliminated educational programming, family visits, and outdoor recreation. You see, prisons are not built to compete with a pandemic. The pandemic will win every time. With crowded conditions, notorious substandard medical care, and constantly shifting populations, prisons were and still are ill-equipped to handle a highly contagious virus. Educational programming is one proven way to combat recidivism, and that was my main point. However, the other portion of my speech was directed towards attracting helpers for an upcoming job fair designed to embrace the formerly incarcerated. Now, I can picture one of my fellow Toastmasters, an ex-con, whom I like to refer to as a returning citizen, sitting down at a job interview with a potential employer whose speaking skills are far better than the interviewer. And that's because Toastmasters has proven to be one program that enables inmates to gain valuable communication and leadership skills while behind bars. I've listened to inmates present admirable business plans with lofty aspirations. I personally know of several inmates who are thriving upon their release because of the support that they received while in prison. It takes a strong mind and a will to survive in prison. And take, for example, my friend Jimmy McPhee, who, after given the death penalty, served 45 years in prison, who now says, without spiritual, academic, and vocational education, most inmates are doomed to repeat the destructive cycle of imprisonment. Now, on the other hand, a fellow Toastmaster whom I admire for his tenacity and bright smile caught charges serious enough to prevent him from rejoining the club ever again. I can only assume that his mental health suffered a sharp decline, and while he was in that state of mind, he made a poor decision. Sadly, Toastmasters was the one educational program he said was making a difference in his life during incarceration. And the fact that Patrick made a stupid mistake as a 20-something, and he is now a frustrated 30-something man with no tangible hope for a prosperous future, that saddens me. And may I say it again? Rehabilitation requires education. Secondly, after a release, a returning citizen must be able to provide for himself or herself and his or her family. And if not, what's the alternative? Going back to the life of crime? Nobody wants that, including every inmate upon his or her release. Think about it. Who in their right mind would want to risk going back to prison, the place where a pandemic cannot be controlled and a coughing cellmate could be the death of you? The answer, my friends, is rehabilitation while incarcerated and employment upon release. As I see it, any effort to improve our communities starts with drastically reducing our prison populations by quickly enacting criminal justice reform. In the meanwhile, while they are in timeout from society, education is the means to rehabilitation. Second chances is a real thing, and a job fair is just another cog in the wheel to reduce recidivism.